Bienvenidos a todos los que nos acompañan de nuestra comunidad hispanohablante. Si usted necesita traducción al español, le invitamos que nos acompañe, y un miembro de personal está disponible para traducir a través de línea telefónica. Para unirse a la traducción ahora mismo, por favor marque al número 1-669-900-6833 con el número de identificación 889-5905 1042 y use la clave 094-080. Toda esta información la puede encontrar en nuestra página de internet del Distrito Escolar, visitando www.ssfusd.org y busque bajo la sección de School Board Meetings. Muchas gracias.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the September 8, 2022 regular meeting of the South San Francisco Unified School District's Board of Trustees. May I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Oler? Trustee Shea? Lujan?
He's asking if you're here.
What?
If you're here.
Oh. Here.
Present. I'd like to call up Ponderosa Principal Julie Erskine to introduce our pledge leader today.
Good evening, trustees, cabinet, and community. My name is Julie Erskine. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Justin Armanito, who will lead us in the pledge this evening. Justin, please join me. A few words about Justin, written by his teacher. So he motivates other students with his enthusiasm and willingness to participate in all learning opportunities, whether it's during partner work, group, or individual activities. Justin meets and exceeds the classroom high expectations and does so with humor, kindness, and great joy for learning. His favorite subjects in school are math, which delights his teacher, Mr. Pursuant, and PE, and he's also an avid baseball player.
Please salute the flag. Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justin, if you'll stay right there for a second.
And family, if you want to join as well for a photo.
Justin, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, we'd like to extend our thanks with this. Can we usually take a photo? Would you join us for that? Yeah. No? We acknowledge that the South San Francisco Unified School District is located on the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples, who are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula. We wish to pay our respects by acknowledging the ancestors, elders, and relatives of the Ramaytush community, and by affirming their sovereign rights as First People. Or at agenda review, does anyone need to change anything on the agenda? All right, well then we'll move on to item F, PTA Council Remarks. Mr. Santa, welcome back.
Are we on here? Yes, we are. Okay, I just wanted to make sure because it's new. Good evening, President Baker, trustees, Superintendent Moore, cabinet, members of the community here and watching online. I wanted to start off this evening by thanking Superintendent Moore, Trustee Shea, and Trustee Richardson for their attendance at the PTA Council meeting on Tuesday night. I will tell you that I was very embarrassed at the start of the meeting because the young gentleman who just did the pledge was able to do the pledge and remember it better than 3 PTA officers trying to get it confused by heat. It was very, very unnerving. Our year has started off very, very well. We have a good group of people involved. We have several PTAs that have seasoned officers, veterans, and we have some that are brand new and have never done PTA. So we are working with everybody to make sure that everyone has all the tools they need. Our PTA officers training is this coming Tuesday night. It will be done online virtually to keep with the safety things. We're not doing anything in person right now. Many of our units are getting ready to start looking at doing in-person on-site either meetings or events. And we will be working closely with our principals and the administration to follow the correct protocol for such events to make sure that we keep everyone safe and healthy. It is once every 2 years I get to come out and I get to talk about this. This is an election year. And not only do we have school board candidates on the ballot, we have a bond measure on the ballot. And I have to remind the district and the candidates, and I'm doing that publicly, not knowing if anyone's here, that PTAs are apolitical. They do not endorse. If you wish to meet or go to a PTA and discuss a topic like a candidate or the bond measure, you have to make sure that the opposing view is also present or given the opportunity to also voice their point. So with that said, we try and make sure that we cover everything. We will give the opportunity for both sides. If we reach out and do not get the opposite side, that's unfortunate, but we try. We are not allowed to endorse. We are not allowed to play favor in this case. This is a nonpartisan situation where all we do is put the information out and our members are allowed to make their decisions on their own. With that being said, that ends my report for this evening. Thank you.
Excuse us as we're working with new microphones tonight and still trying to figure out exactly how well they work. I'd like to welcome up our South San Francisco Federation of Adult Educators president. Welcome.
President Baker, honored board members, Dr. Moore, and members of the cabinet, as well as members of the public. Good evening. I wasn't able to attend the August 11 board meeting, so it's good to be back. But first, I want to thank Dr. Moore for the opportunity to speak at the Welcome Back event. I always appreciate the chance to speak to the community about what we do at Adult Ed. As we begin this new school year, we will also begin a new round of negotiations. I want to mention a couple of news articles that have recently caught my attention. First of all, in mid-August, the Economic Policy Institute released an updated report on the state of teacher pay in the United States, and it is quite sobering. In every state in this country, quote, teachers are paid less in weekly wages and total compensation than their non-teacher college-educated counterparts, and the situation has worsened considerably over time, unquote. This financial penalty means fewer teachers can afford to keep working in our schools, and fewer college graduates are willing to enter the profession. We are already seeing the consequences of this situation in the desperate shortage of substitute teachers in our district. I want to share some key findings from the EPI's report and note that these are direct quotes. Inflation-adjusted average weekly wages of teachers have been relatively flat since 1996. The average weekly wages of public school teachers, adjusted only for inflation, increased just $29 from 1996 to 2021. From $1,319 to $1,348 in 2021 dollars. In contrast, inflation-adjusted weekly wages of other college graduates rose from $1,564 to $2,009 over the same period, a $445 increase. Second, the relative teacher wage penalty grew to a record high in 2021. It was 23.5% in 2021, up from 6.1% in 1996. The penalty for men rose from 15.1% to 35.2% over that period. Women had a negligible wage penalty of 0.1% in 1996, but faced a wage penalty of 17.1% in 2021. Third point, the benefits advantages for teachers has not been enough to offset the growing wage penalty. The teacher total compensation penalty was 14.2% in 2021, a 23.5% wage penalty offset by a 9.3% benefits advantage. The bottom line is that the teacher total compensation penalty grew by 11.5 percentage points from 1993 to 2021. And finally, the relative teacher wage penalty exceeds 20% in 28 states. Teacher weekly wage penalties estimated for each state range from 3.4% in Rhode Island to 35.9% in Colorado. In 28 states, teachers are paid less than 80 cents on the dollar earned by similar college-educated workers in those states. In California, the teacher wage penalty is only 17.6%. That's the first story. The second story is probably familiar to most of you. The Milpitas Unified School District recently took the step of asking district parents to rent their spare rooms to district teachers because the teachers cannot afford housing within 15 miles of the district. Milpitas is not South San Francisco, but you can be assured that this story is on everyone's minds. I recognize that our district is in a difficult place. We're faced with ongoing drops in enrollment and a significant budget deficit. But back in July, Governor Newsom signed a budget that includes historic levels of funding for TK-12 school districts, meant in part for pay raises and new hires. As we go to the bargaining table, we'll be keeping these stories and those budget numbers in mind. Thank you.
Next, the Vice President of the South San Francisco Classroom Teachers Association, Shali Tapia.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Dr. Moore and Cabinet. My name is Shali Tapia, and I'm one of 3 of South San Francisco Classroom Teachers Association Vice Presidents. I'd like to take a moment to introduce myself if I could. I've been with this district for 8 years. Previous to that, I was a long-term sub for 2 years for South San Francisco. So I was a teacher at Martin with third and 4th grade. And now I am an English learner teacher on special assignment. More importantly than this, I am a parent of South San Francisco Unified School District. Both of my daughters started kindergarten at Monteverde, continued on to Westboro, and are now both high school students at El Camino. And I'm very proud of both of them. Sorry. So tonight I get the pleasure of speaking to you on behalf of our members, as President Burns is unavailable this evening. This year has gotten off to a hot start, to say the least, but many of our members have figured out unique ways to keep cool and keep their students focused. All right, now down to the brass tacks. I wish that the speech had a more positive tone. Unfortunately, SSF CTA leadership feels many concerns have gone ignored. First, the report card window has been reduced to 2 weeks' time. When holidays and weekends factor in, it will be about 4 school days that teachers will have available to input grades, while at the same time learning a new report card. We've been given more mandated trainings than ever before without time given to do them. Many elementary school sites still have not received the instructional materials they need to teach their standard-based curriculum. This includes their language arts, science, and math materials. Students are suffering, and this is the end of week 5 of our school year. Filing Williams complaints, there's a draft. Filing Williams complaints in order to get the basics of our students' requirements was not how teachers wanted to start the school year. We and I be doing some leadership training, and I hope to be a part of bargaining. We look forward to bargaining over the next couple of months for safe working conditions, higher salaries, smaller class sizes, and other important supports. We know that teachers are hard to find. We are working harder than ever, and there are opportunities in districts close by that receive signing bonuses in the amounts of upwards of $10,000. We know the district has the money to support us, and your staff needs it now more than ever. We do not want to lose teachers and staff to other districts that offer higher salaries. If our increase this year isn't in the double digits, the 3% increase over the past few years doesn't even begin to cover the costs of living. Some may say we lose money every year staying and working in this district, yet we recommit to it every year. We ask for you to commit to us and make us a priority. I believe there needs to be a change of mindset from our leaders here at SSFUSD. Take care of your staff. They will take care of the learning and teaching, no matter the situation we are placed. As someone once said, teaching is the greatest act of optimism. Thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm excited to be an active member in SSF CTA this year, and I look forward to working together. Thank you.
Mateo. This microphone is in and out. But thank you. And now I'd like to welcome Classified School Employees Association, Chapter 197, President Jolene Malfatti. Thank you.
Good evening, President Baker, honorable trustees, Superintendent Moore, and Cabinet. I hope everyone had a restful and nice Labor Day last Monday. Our classified employees work hard every day to give the students the best educational experience possible. Labor Day is the only national holiday that celebrates hardworking people and workers' rights and recognizes how labor has only benefited our great nation. CSEA is proud to represent 250,000 hardworking classified employees in California whose work has been especially critical to our schools and communities, not only during the start of this school year, but throughout the pandemic. Classified employees in our district continue to face stressful challenges every day, along with our teachers, with staffing shortages, increased workloads, and high cost of living in the Bay Area. I'm hoping to work with management to find ways to retain and support our current employees, as classified morale is lower than I had anticipated this year. After polling our classified employees about proposed tax increases, the survey outcome proved to me that the majority of our classified employees are still struggling with financial burdens brought on by the pandemic. I look forward to working with Superintendent Moore or Human Resources, anyone who'd be willing, and our board members to reach out and find a way to support our classified staff and our teachers, to retain them and support them in every way we can. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Item H, the Personnel Commission.
Thank you, President Baker. The next Personnel Commission meeting will be September 19th at 5 p.m. in the district boardroom.
Dr. Spalding.
President
Item,
Baker,
yes, Dr. Spalding.
President Baker, thank you. Personnel Commission will meet September 19th at 5 p.m. in the district boardroom. Thank you.
Still have some bugs to work out with the microphone. Thank you, Dr. Spalding. We've got your report. Item I, items from the board. Any announcements, anything from the board calendar or any committee reports? Seeing none, we will move on to item J, the superintendent report. Mr. Irish.
Thank you, President Baker. So the first item is back to school nights. I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to our community for your engagement and participation at our back to school night events this year. We truly appreciate the time you took to attend, listen, observe, and learn about your children's classroom, to hear more about what they are learning, the classroom culture students are experiencing, and the ways they are working together as a community. I want to thank and appreciate all teachers and staff who welcomed our families and presented helpful and engaging information. The next item is a mental health grant. So South San Francisco Unified School District, along with San Mateo County Office of Education, Redwood City School District, and San Mateo Public Health are in the process of gathering data for a grant. It's a student behavioral health incentive program. It's called SB-HIP, and we're working on that grant application together. So the data required for the application includes representation from multiple stakeholder groups and a combination of survey, focus group, and other related service sources for behavioral and mental health information this year and the last 2 years since 2020. So shortly, parents are going to get a parent survey that's been sent out to all of them. We're asking for participation. Staff will get a similar survey that we're asking for participation. The due date on those surveys are September 19th. Ed Services will also send out a student survey to our secondary students along with our Daybreak Universal Screener later this month. I will be happy to report out the results once we hear word. The grant application is due in end of October. So we should hear sometime in December, early January. Strategic plan update. District is embarked on a district priority of creating a strategic plan for South San Francisco Unified School District. We just want to share some information. The district's contracted with an organization to launch our strategic plan. We truly believe that all children are entitled to an exceptional and equitable education. So we're going to use this opportunity to bring our community together to identify and prioritize what we believe will help us to achieve equity and excellence for all students in the district. We're going to start the process by creating a portrait of a graduate and then move into the strategic planning part. So what skills we want our students to achieve by the time they graduate? What does a graduate look like here in South San Francisco? So that way we can discuss and align our resources and set goals and put action steps to engage in this process of continuous improvement through ongoing reflection. Always, we need our community to help us and engage in the strategic plan effort. So we'll be asking parents, staff, students, and community to engage and support the strategic plan and provide input. We want to work collaboratively to clearly define the impact we intend to achieve with our students, and your voices will be critical in this effort, especially since your children's education is a partnership between our schools and our family. And we will be sharing more information soon. And we hope community members will be enthusiastically engaged in this important process for the district. Lastly, just share some information on our community information meetings on the district bond program. So the board has approved a local school bond measure, Measure T, that will be going on the ballot for this November. The district's been hosting this past couple of weeks community meetings to share information about our facility needs. We've also put that information and put it on our website, www.ssfusd.org/ APPS/PAGES/2022-bond. So the website has factual information about our school bond measure, presentations, and community meeting information. We've created a frequently asked question document and a recording of the presentation for those who are interested, who are unable to attend one of our community sessions. And then lastly, I just want to say thank you and take this opportunity to address and acknowledge the elephant in the room. Nope. And that's it. So sorry with that. Thank you very much. That's the superintendent's report. And if it's okay, I will pass it to our student trustees. Oh, I will pass it back to President Baker.
Thank you. There is no elephant. I might want to suggest getting a short URL for the bond measure if we're going to do that. Thank you. And now we will start our student trustee reports. First, we will have Katrina Oler, Fall Student Trustee and ASB President at El Camino High School. Trustee Oler.
Good evening, board members, cabinet, and audience at home and audience present. My name is Katrina Oler, and I'm currently a senior serving as this year's ASB President at El Camino High School and as the Fall Student Trustee. From August 28th to September 2nd, we held our annual club rush during lunch in the ECHS courtyard. Students were able to check out all the wonderful clubs that we offer at our school, including a variety of academic, service, cultural, and special interest clubs. We have over 30 active clubs such as BIPOC Unity, Debate Club, and Key Club, all being overseen by our ASB chairperson, JC Cruz. Last Tuesday, El Camino held their back to school night, which was the first in-person one since the pandemic. We had the pleasure of having many families from all grades join us to learn more about our school and meet all of our amazing teachers and staff. We also had leadership students selling ECHS merchandise throughout the night, which had a successful outcome with some products being sold out. We're excited that our families want to show off their cold pride. Our drama department held auditions for this year's fall musical last week, which will be the classic Annie. If you would like to see the official cast list, it is available on Instagram at ECHS Drama Department. We can't wait to see the musical come to life on stage this November. As a way to engage school spirit and culture on our campus, we had 2 spirit days in the month of August. First, we had a Little Miss and Mr. Day where students were able to create their own Little Miss, Mr. or MX meme and put it on their t-shirts. There was a great turnout and students came to school with very unique memes. We also had a Friday Night Lights Spirit Day in celebration of our first home football games last Friday. Students wore any football gear or merch they had or our ECHS school colors. Any Friday that is not a designated Spirit Day is Wear ECHS Gear Day, and students can choose to represent any school merch they have. Although our football team did not get the result they wanted last Friday, it was very exciting to have our community come together for Friday Night Lights. We are looking forward to the rest of our football home games this season. The next football game is this Saturday at Lincoln High School, JV at 11 a.m. and varsity at 2 p.m. As we dive deeper into the school year, our fall sports teams are also starting to begin their seasons. Our girls varsity volleyball team actually played against our rivals from South City High School today and took home a victory. Congratulations to our girls varsity volleyball team, and we can't wait to see what the rest of your season has in hold for you all. That concludes my report, and unless there are any questions or concerns, I'd like to thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Trustee Aller. I'd like to welcome up to the podium our spring student trustee and ASB President, South City High, Tanya Torres.
Good evening, board, cabinet, and community. I am Tanya Torres, proudly representing South San Francisco High School as ASB president. Hope all of SSFUSD is doing well as we enter this heat wave. Our school has been hard at work to improve the atmosphere at South City with various events, new clubs, and opportunities for our students to get involved. Our ASB Senior Commission held our annual senior sunrise last week on Friday, September 2nd, starting at 6 a.m. Our Senior Commission distributed free conchas, croissants with ham and cheese, and hot chocolate for all our seniors to enjoy. Our students watched the morning rise with their friends, enjoying free food and songs reminiscent of their high school time. Our seniors also had at their disposal various activities, and many were able to capture meaningful memories with our student photographer, Juan Tamayo, capturing these moments. Our freshman elections also took place the week of August 22nd, and our freshman class voted for their class officers on the Friday of that week. We are so happy to welcome our new officers, Gabriel Murillo, Jamie Leon Ochoa, and Haley Hang to our ASB class. As for other activities, our ASB class has officially decided on our homecoming theme. This year, we are happy to present you with the Grammys, with each class taking a music genre as their sub-theme. Our homecoming week will take place on the week of October 10th, with our homecoming dance being on October 15th. Our 4 classes have already begun working on their homecoming skit, decorations, and rally dance, and we can't wait to see what they come up with. Additionally, our welcome back rally will take place this Friday, September 9th in the afternoon. We are in the middle of our summer Rewind Spirit Week, with today being Minion Day, and many students have found creative ways to dress up and show spirit in spite of the heat. At our rally, we will be having our folklorico advanced class, hip hop club, and our cheer team performing, as well as many other activities for our students to enjoy. It is our first rally back in our gym since 2020, and we are so excited to welcome our new students back into Old South City traditions. Our ASB School and Community Commission has also been working hard with Club Brush being next week. We have around 30 clubs participating this year, and we have so many new clubs participating, from Bill Am Club, South City Soccer Club, Black Student Union, Film Club, Polynesian Club, Math Club, and so many more. And we are so happy to provide students with new opportunities to get involved with our school community. Many of our current clubs have also continued their activities. Earth Club is holding a beach cleanup on September 17th, and our Animal Rescue Club is hosting a pet food bank drive to give help to low-income pet owners to help feed their pets. And we also had our back to school night, as was mentioned last Tuesday, August 30th. What I enjoyed is that parents got to see not just like the classroom and their teachers, but also they got to see performances from our jazz band, cheer, and folklorico, and they all gave wonderful performances and added that atmosphere of South City to the parents as well. Our sports have also been hard at work, with our football team facing Jefferson this week on Friday, and our first home game dating back to a couple weeks ago, which had a very vibrant atmosphere. Our Lady Warriors have also been hard at work. As mentioned, the rival game for girls volleyball was today, and also girls volleyball won last week against Pac Bay High School. So congrats to them. Lastly, the mural that was started last year in our B Wing area has been finalized by now alumni Brenda Gonzalez. The mural depicts various different aspects of our South City community, and most importantly, our diversity and willingness to use our voices and unite as one towards the betterment of our community. We are so thankful to her for highlighting and capturing our values and our strengths. That is all I have for today, and thank you so much for giving me the space. If there are any questions, let me know. Thank you so much.
Thank you, President Torres. Now we're at item L on our agenda, public comments for items not on the agenda. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on an item not on the agenda tonight? Seeing none, we will move on to our first information-only presentation. So I'd like to welcome Principal Julie Erskine, who will share with the board educational priorities and programs at Ponderosa Elementary School. Mr. Irish.
Just briefly, President Baker, before Principal Erskine starts. This evening, Principal Erskine is going to be sharing information from CASP, our SBAC results, English and math. I just want to remind the public, and all it's here is not publicly available, so we're allowed to share Ponderosa information only. We can't compare to any other school, county, or state. So I just wanted to preface that before she begins. Good evening, Principal Erskine.
So good evening once again, Cabinet, Board of Trustees, and to our community. My name is Julie Erskine, Principal of Ponderosa, and I'm proud to share teaching and learning at Ponderosa this year. So the best part of being here is welcome back. And last year I was able to present at the end of the year. So a taste of where we went as the year progressed. And this evening you get a snapshot of where we're going as the year begins. This is a profile of one way of looking at who we are at Ponderosa. And attendance by different student groups. You will notice an 84%, it's for a group that's very small of 14 students. There were 2 students that were out during that time period. And please see our district LCAP goals. And this evening, I'll share with you how Ponderosa Elementary School directly supports all 4 of our LCAP goals and our district priorities. And this evening, I want to talk about Ponderosa. We focus very much on our steering wheel, where we're going, but also our gas tank, checking in that where we're going is where we expect, and making sure their students are progressing and learning. With a special lens on ELA and math, and particularly in the academic area. And I think you can see how all 3 of these are closely correlated. So here are our CAS scores, as Mr. Iris shared, not to be compared in other areas. It's just Ponderosa and not to be compared to the state and the district. We don't have that information at this time. And our CAS scores by different student groups. This is our mission statement at Ponderosa. So the Ponderosa community encourages and cultivates social and educational growth for all learners with an emphasis on growth. So CASP is a snapshot, but our emphasis is definitely growth and in all realms of the student. And we have some what we call our common agreements at Ponderosa. It's what all staff has agreed is important to us, what we share, and in direct alignment with our LCAP goals. So common language, and that's supported by our social emotional programs, so Soul Shop and PACS, but also how we teach our priority standards. Small groups, so we're committed to small groups, both for ELD students, and all students participate in a small group during the school day. And how do we make these small groups? We look at our assessments, we place students according to their need and reassess and hope that they learn and grow and move to different small groups. And those are clearly linked to our priority standards. And what we're trying to create at Ponderosa is a space to learn. So these are snapshots of our first 2 weeks of school, but I think it's fun to see us getting ready to launch what's important to us. So a picture of a PACS classroom wall that shows what sort of environment our students want. And we think it services for continuing to support PACS throughout the year. It's very valuable that our staff is able to be trained, new staff to Ponderosa and to our South San Francisco community. And then also the students playing a PACS game, but it's fun to see in the background, you know, the same sort of things exemplified in the classroom as the teacher is teaching. Students being acknowledged by the lunch teacher using the same language of PACS and Soul Shop, supporting our classroom rules. And then you can also see Ms. Schaefer at the top teaching her students regulation. How do I feel when I'm in a red zone and what can I do? And Soul Shop gives us a lot of that language. And then as a community, we begin our day together, students and teachers and all staff, talking about what are our priorities, what are our character traits, and we're all PACS leaders. Priority standards, scope and sequence is well developed in ELA and math, and you can see students right from the get-go learning and growing and working towards the priority standards. And all types of different learning with the emphasis on reading, writing, and vocabulary development. And of course, doing the things that make school exciting. So launching our garden, finishing our sentence stems, working in small groups in math, and more vocabulary. So 2 classrooms, two photos, and upper grade teachers both doing the same lesson. So we plan together, again, using our formative assessments and making classroom decisions that best support our students. And of course, looking at standards in different ways, so accommodating different types of learners. So at the top picture shows listening and speaking, what one student needs, working towards the standard, and then all different levels of learning, and launching our garden for seedlings. And then small groups. So small group, we assess. So you can see teachers at the bottom. Let's see, that's Miss Aquino, Miss Dowd, assessing students to place in small groups. But then you see Miss Hovland and Miss Elias teaching small groups. So meeting the needs of students according to their assessments. And you always have to give a huge thank you to the people who make it happen. So a huge thank you to the Ponderosa staff, to our para teams, and our school psychologists, our speech and language pathologists, our ELD and librarian, and our health techs and the office staff, more para teams, RNs and LVNs, our kindergarten team, and our second grade team, our third grade team, I'm trying, my clicker's not going, our first grade team, and our fourth and fifth grade team. And we have many special education classes. They are part of the teams that you see in front of us because every student is a Ponderosa student first. And more paras. So we're very thankful to everyone that we work together. And of course, education is a partnership. I think I saw at least one member of the PTA here. She may have snow. Oh, yes, I did. Okay. So thank you to Cynthia Stakis and Cindy Coe and Nicole Longa and Matt Sanford and Jackie Chen and Heather Hefner, who's here, and we can present with a certificate in person. The rest of us are virtual. So big round of applause. And may I present Ms. Hefner with her certificate? Thank you. And the rest are on virtual. They're with us. Thank you, thank you. And if I may snap a picture with you. Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Erskine. Do I have any questions? And I think tapping on the mic makes it work. So go ahead, Vice President Richardson.
Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. I can't forget when you mentioned special educations in your school. I had occasion to visit you, and I was left very impressed with the way the students accepted these children that are visibly limited and handicapped. So I want to just basically ask you, what kind of disabilities do you have there that you accept in your school?
All of our program is part of our district-wide special education program. So any student that meets one of the 12 federal criteria, so it can be from other health impairment to different learning needs. But we have created a very inclusive environment, and we're proud of it. We work on it together. And I think going back to the notion that every student is a Ponderosa student first.
In a gurney, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is really trying to include them, and that was I can't forget that that vision. Thank you for your participation in mainstreaming those children.
Thank you.
Questions or comments for her? Trustee Murray.
Talking?
So it's sound activated. You have to say a few words first.
No? Can you hear me? Okay. No, this is working. Thank you. I just want to thank you. I appreciated hanging out with you on the first day of school and seeing all the kids playing. It just, this year feels so different. It feels like, you know, we're finally going into a direction that of health and you know, growth. And I love your growth mindset on your campus, the small groups and well, everything you do. I mean, it's just, I love that because it's addressing each child where they are and expecting some sort of growth for them, not for, you know, so I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Trustee Shay, you had something?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Principal Erkins. Excellent presentation. And from the photo, picture worth of 1,000 words. So you can see the student and teachers teaching and learning through your photo vividly. So really appreciate you share those photos with us. And I do have, and also the participation rate of 96% in this condition that you reach that participation. It's amazing. So appreciate all your hard work and leadership. I do have maybe it's comment. And if you have the answer, I'm sorry, I should said it earlier before the meeting. I'm just curious about our Hispanic students and the male students, their scores on the CAASPP were lower. So I'm just curious what's your take on that?
Well, there is a discrepancy, that is certain, particularly male students. That was something that was obvious. It's hard to know what specific factors are at play when you don't have students by name. So, you know, who are they? What are their needs? It's hard for me to speak as to a group as opposed to individuals and what they need. But it's data to start with, but I feel the formative assessments are the most valuable in the moment. How do we respond to where they are? And that's our duty and obligation to meet them where they are and to move them forward. I think one of the shortcomings of CASP is it doesn't show growth. And so it gives us a snapshot in time, and some students have made remarkable growth. But it's something we need to look at. I agree with you, it does stand out.
Appreciate your comment. And then this, I'm going to say this, this is not just for Ponderosa, I think for all our schools from board standpoint, because our educational equity policy, I just want to read it. I think this will put us on the, like what you just described, that educational equity means that each student receive what they need when they need it to develop to their full potential. The way you describe is this statement's operation. So I really appreciate that. And I hope, I believe our principals are working toward that, and that's our board's goal as well. So thank you.
Steve Luan, do you have anything?
All right, yeah, it worked. Sorry, it's a mystery. So I just really wanted to thank you for your presentation. Throughout your presentation, you definitely highlighted that you hold high standards for each student, but they're individualized for where the student's at. And that was really exemplified by just the strategic responses through small groups, the monitoring to see what kind of progress they're making and how to respond once you get new data. So I really appreciate that whole cycle of inquiry type model of responding to individual students. It's very responsive. And I also really valued how throughout your presentation, you highlighted community. It's very clear that all students want to thrive, all the families support that, and the staff is united behind it. So thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank you for coming by. I really like, and this has been consistent in my visits to your campus over the years or in your presentations here, the emphasis on the social emotional learning. Every time you always come through and tell how Pondo is working well on the Soul Shop, or I believe it was Chocolate Factory one year. And it's a great approach to PAX learning that I think is paying dividends. So I'd like to compliment you on that. The only other question I have is very slightly similar to Trustee Shea's question. And I'm looking at these math scores that she mentioned, and I'm actually seeing this not just at Pondo, but across the district, even at campuses with higher incomes, campuses with lower incomes, that I think we need to find some ways to support our math curriculum a little better. So if there's anything that comes to mind, I know you're on the spot, but if not, if you think of anything, please let us know as well.
But I think the flip side of that is that we've put a lot of emphasis into reading, and it's made its mark. And so I think we know better and we can do better. And I think some of the things we've sorted out in reading, we can apply to math as well.
Appreciate it. Again, thank you very much for your presentation. We're going to move to our next item in our agenda, presentation with potential action. So I believe I'm going to offer it up next to Mr. O for a presentation on our year-end unaudited actuals.
Can you hear me? Okay. Okay, good evening, President Baker, members of the board, Dr. Moore, cabinet, staff, and community members. I'll be presenting the district's unaudited actuals financial report for 2021-22 tonight. This is the report we prepare after we close our books. And the report covers the period from July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. The purpose of this presentation is to show you how we ended the school year. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, thank you. Okay, there are areas, these are the areas I'll be covering tonight in this evening. I'll be going over the education code requirements, the 2021-22 actual expenditures, and actual revenues, the general fund summary and comparison. And then we'll talk about some of the other funds that we have and some of the areas we're concerned, and also look ahead at the next steps. Thank you. Okay, so this is education code requirements for the unaudited actuals. It requires districts to take the report to the board for approval and then submit it to the San Mateo County Office of Education for review for accuracy. Then after that, it gets submitted to the California Department of Education. And then finally in late September, October, or early October, then we have our external auditors who will come to our district office to review the books and prepare the audit report. Next slide, please. Okay, so the next couple of slides, I'll be covering the general fund actual revenues. The general fund is the district's main operating fund. You can look at it as one of our many bank accounts. I'll be going over the unrestricted general fund as well as the restricted general fund and also the combined amount. Next, please. Thank you. Okay, this slide shows our unrestricted general fund revenues. The state requires districts to label these revenues into these categories. That way it is consistent throughout the state. So we ended the year with 101.5 million in the unrestricted general fund revenues. The bulk of our revenue comes from LCFF sources. You can see on the slide at the top there, which is for our district is the property taxes because we are a basic aid community funded school districts. Next slide, please. Okay, so this slide shows the restricted revenues. I have separated the restricted portion from the unrestricted portion because the restricted portion must be used for a specific purpose. These funds may not be used to provide salary increases to our employees. They include like categorical programs such as Title I, Title II, CTE grants, special ed funding, and many parts of the federal and state federal stimulus money. Those one-time money, for example, like ESSER. We ended the year with about 28 million in restricted revenues. Next slide, please. So the total of all revenues, restricted and unrestricted, comes to about 129.5 million. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is basically the same information in the previous slide, but we put it in a pie chart for you. Next slide. Thank you. Okay, and so the next couple of slides, I'll be covering the general fund actual expenditures. Just like revenues, I will break them down, the amounts by unrestricted and restricted. Next slide, please. Okay, so this slide shows our unrestricted general fund expenditures. The state requires district to group the expenditures into these categories, so it's consistent throughout the state, just like the revenues. We ended the year with 87.5 million in unrestricted general fund expenditures. You might wonder why the unrestricted general fund revenue is 101.5 million and our unrestricted general fund expenditure is only 87.5 million. A difference of about 14 million more revenue. This is part of the 23.7 million general fund contribution to the special education program, about 19.8 million of that. And also the state required contribution to our facilities maintenance program, which is about 3.9 million. So that's kind of why there's a difference there. And next slide, please. So for the restricted general fund, we ended the year with 47.5 million in expenditures in 2021-22. Next slide, please. And then the overall expenditures, we ended the year with 135 million in expenditures for 21-22. Next slide, please. Yes, same as the revenue. This is the similar data from the previous slide, but broken into a pie chart for you. Next slide, please. Okay, the next couple of slides, we will see the general fund summary broken down by unrestricted and restricted. You also see a comparison of the estimated actuals and the unaudited actuals. Next slide, please. So this is a high-level summary of the closing numbers for 21-22. I've broken them down into unrestricted and restricted also. The ending fund balance before the state require designation and as well as the district designation, which show at the bottom, is for the and this is for the unrestricted general fund, is about 21.9 million. About 217,000 is considered non-spendable, which includes the inventory, like prepaid items, revolving cash, and stuff like that. Then we have about 10.1 million toward the bottom there, and that's the set aside by the district for anticipated expenditures. So that's the district designation. And then about 6.7 million is the state required designation. So our district, for our size, is about 3% of our total expenditures, but we put 5% because we're a basic aid district and we need the extra cash for cash flow purposes. The amount remaining is at the bottom is about 4.9 million. And this amount is needed to help the district balance its budget in the future years because the district is deficit spending, which means that the district is spending more than the revenue it takes in. The state requires school district to have a balanced budget in the current year as well as the next 2 years. So if you recall, I presented the 2022-23 adopted budget in June. I mentioned that we had removed the 8.5 million district designation for property tax repayment in the designation in order to balance the budget for all 3 years. So if we did not have this remaining balance after we close the books, we will not be able to balance the books for the current as well as the next 2 years. Then the ending fund balance, the middle column there, the ending fund balance for the restricted general fund is about 19 million, right, the center there. These are the restricted categorical program funds that needs to be carried over into the following year and spent for its intended purposes. They are not funds for district that the district can spend as it chooses the amount is much higher this year due to the carryovers of one-time unspent federal and state stimulus funds that the district received but has not spent yet. So as examples that is, for example, ESSER 3, we have multiple years to spend that. So, so we carry over about 4.1 million of that funding into next year. Educational effectiveness, about 2 million. Then we have the ELO grant. So a lot of these are like one-time money, but we'll allow multiple years to spend the funds. So we carry over any unspent money this year into next year. Okay, next slide, please. So these are the district reserve designations for 2021-22. So this is the 10.1 million you saw earlier. So that's the makeup. The program carryover funds from the prior year were posted in the in the 2022-23 budget later on this month. Then they'll be removed from the destination when I report the first interim financial report. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the comparison of our estimated actuals of what we anticipate our revenue and expenditures will look like when we close the books, on all the actuals, which is the actual revenue and expenditures after we close the books. So we prepared the estimated actuals back in the end of May, when we were preparing the adopted budget for next year. So this is only for the unrestricted general fund because these funds are not restricted for a specific spending purpose. There is a fallout about 1.5 million out of the 135 million budget after we close the book. So that's the difference. So we have about 1.5 million more. So we're not far off because this is about close to 1% of the total expenditures budget for the year. So that's quite close. Next slide, please. Okay, the district also has other funds that I mentioned earlier. As I mentioned, you can look at them as other checking accounts. For example, the state requires district to track some specific expenditures in different funds. For example, Fund 13 is for everything revenue expenditures related to the nutrition services program. Fund 11 is for the adult education program, and so on. So each one is kept separately per fund. Next slide, please. So these are some of the areas of concern which you have seen in my prior presentation. So I'm not going to go through them, but it's just for a reminder and for your information. Next slide, please. Then looking ahead, we have the 2022-23 first interim financial report going to the board in December 2022 for approval. And then next, our auditors will be auditing our books and preparing the audit report, which we will take to the board in January 2023. And then also in January 2023, the governor will release his proposed budget for 2023-24, which I'll be providing an update to the board at that time. And that ends my report. And I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O. I'll start questions. Well, I'll let a volunteer, but if not, I'll start on my far right. Trustee Murray, do you want to start?
I have no questions, but I want to thank you and your staff for all the work that you did. This is pretty, I mean, I don't know if people know, but this is what this looks like. He gave a really high level report, but this is what it looks like. So thank you. It's much appreciated. And this makes it really understandable for me. So thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Richardson.
Mr. O, you always make it sound easy, but it isn't. I know. Because I can't even, if it weren't for you, I mean, forget it. But I was kind of curious about the grant that I understood that we were going to apply. Do you know any more about that? Were we allocated those funds, or is it too soon, or have we sent in the grant, our share of the grant? Mr. Irish might know.
Good evening, Trustee Richardson. We are in the process of applying. The grant is due at the end of October. So I'm working with Dr. Hugh, Dr. Moore, Redwood City, San Mateo County Office of Ed, and San Mateo Public Health, and we're gathering all that information. We're conducting a needs assessment, and the first part for us as a district is sharing some survey data. And Dr. Hugh and I are going to do that later on this month with the reps of the other that are on the committee. So I will continue to provide an update. As soon as we get the grant in, I will let the board and the public know. And as soon as we get any information, I will let you know what the potential award amount is. It's substantial. It just depends on what other counties are doing as well. So we don't know the exact amount yet.
So our TK numbers this year, were we able to, did we have enough space and money to, or is that too soon to say?
The grant that I was talking about and referencing early was a mental health grant. You're referencing the UPK grant. And we haven't got notification of what that award amount is as well. So I'm in the process of transitioning and putting all the information into the database for the state. Once I do that, they gather all the information, then they start the allocation. We believe, we were told it's an implementation grant. It's going to be in a couple $100,000, maybe a max of 200. But again, we're not sure. So Mr. O and I, we don't know exactly because it always depends on what other counties and other districts are doing. And it's based on need. So you've heard Mr. O earlier talk that we're a basic aid district. So that's.
Thank you.
Mr. O, go ahead.
I was going to say, once we know the amount or have some confirmation, then we'll budget it into the first interim financial report, and then we'll report that out, at the first interim. So we can't do any budgeting until we know, have a good confirmation of what the amount is at this time.
To jump ahead in my turn, Mr. or Mr. Irish, but we don't know yet as a basic aid district what, if anything, we'll get out of that government TK grant. Is that correct?
So the grant we applied for was for the implementation. Right now, there is no funding for the additional teachers, or if we added additional programs like we are doing here, we've taken that out of the general fund.
You going to my left?
All right. Yay, it's working. All right, I'm realizing wait time is helpful. So Mr. O, thank you for the presentation. I really appreciate it. Clearly a lot of work went into the unaudited actuals financials report and then the additional work of presenting or creating a presentation, but it does make the many, many pages of the report highly understandable. So I want to thank you for your work. I have concerns about the deficit spending. I'll just be transparent about that. I don't think that deficit spending is sustainable, especially as our enrollment declines. And there are rising costs on the horizon. Like we're all struggling with the rising costs of STRS and PERS increases, inflation, and just costs in general, and then staffing shortages, the costs associated with bringing in agency hires as opposed to our own employees. There's nothing that can be done. I just wanted to note that those are areas of concern. I also wanted to thank staff for pursuing grant funding, especially in light of the fact that we are deficit spending, which is a concern. The grant funding, while it does come in as a categorical fund, it at least is another funding stream. So thank you for your efforts there.
Add one other thing, another concern is I'm not sure I put it in the slide is, because we receive lots of millions of these one-time federal stimulus, state stimulus money. And, we have higher positions, for example, like wellness counselors and some of the other positions. So a lot of the district, one of our biggest concern is we call it the cliff. Well, what happens after those funding goes away? What we're going to do with the position? Will we find funds, other sources of fund to cover to continue those services, or do we need to lay off all those people that we hire? All the paras, all the, so that's a big concern for a lot of districts right now because we're paying a lot of these positions with one-time money that will eventually go away. See, so that's the one of the biggest concerns.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mr. O, with your excellent presentation as always. And I want to ditto trustee Luann's comments that deficit is it's worrisome. So, and thank you for your explanation further. Really appreciate that. Thank you.
Anything, trustee Oler? Thanks. Mr. Irish, could I have slide 15 again, please? Thank you. I'd like to point out the number at the end of the projected ending fund balance, and I'd like to kind of repeat what Mr. Rose said. We've had people say that we're holding on and hoarding cash, and I think this slide kind of says we're not, because when you take out the 19 million there that's already been assigned through some restricted through some sort of program, you take out the 10 million, the next line that we have already assigned to a specific task, such as covering added expenses that we know are coming. We have those two numbers at the bottom right, the 6.7 million, which is our 5% required reserve, and the 4.8 million, which is our undesignated reserve. That means basically we have $11.6 million if anything goes wrong. And as the numbers above show, we spent $5.5 million more last year than we took in. So we can be if this happens 2 years more in a row without increased income, we could be literally on the verge of going bankrupt. So I want everyone to know that we are on a very fine balancing line here. And Mr. O, I will say, having taken a grad school course in public budgeting, having seen these budgets for many years, this is one of the cleaner actual reports I've seen. So thank you for making it understandable. And when we look at it, seeing that those numbers, which really, to me, say we either have to get more revenue or cut programs. I do not want to cut programs. I will continue to find ways to beg, borrow, I don't want to say steal, wherever we can, our additional cash to serve our students wherever we can, because as you pointed out in the concerns, we're funding our mental health counselors with one-time funds that we got through the pandemic. I want those to continue after the pandemic. Our teachers and staff deserve great retirement, and I want to be able to fund those. I want to, because if we're going to hold on and attract, we need to make sure that they want to work here. So thank you for the thorough report.
I just want to also add, the 11 million looks like a lot, but it's not even covered 3 months of payroll. So, and we have accounts payable. We don't count that either. So it looks like a lot, but it barely covers it less than 3 months of payroll.
Thank you. And with that, I will take a motion to accept the report. I'll give it to Vice President Richardson. I'll give you the second to Trustee Luan. All those in favor of accepting the report? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on next to item O, which is our consent agenda, which these items are submitted for board approval as a group. One motion will authorize action for all these items. Anything that any questions on the consent agenda tonight?
Yes. Basically, I asked a question already and Dr. Moore sent me a response, but I had a question of the Parkway removal of concrete. I just couldn't picture it in my mind. Where did the concrete come from? That was it was supposed to be urgent. So I kind of like to know a little background on what happened there, that we have these large pieces of concrete.
Which one is that?
It was on the, oh, let me open it up to the page. Professional services under 25,000, page 105.
105.
$119, Tri-Valley Excavating. Urgent work needed to saw out, cut concrete, excavate and export broken concrete. I just couldn't picture that. Do you know what it was? Anybody?
I'm told is I didn't go to the site, but what I'm told is there's some concrete that was broken, that was a safety hazard for the students that we had to address right away, because we don't want the student to cut themselves because it's broken and it's sharp. So that's what I'm told.
That explains it.
Questions? If not, I'll take a motion. Moved by trustee Murray, seconded by trustee Lujan. All those in favor of the consent calendar? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're into general information discussion, and 1A is a discussion of community forum topics. Do we have suggestions for our community forum topic?
I'd like to have safety as
Are you talking safety in general, or because that's a very broad topic, or?
big five, but the safety needs on some of our campuses. Years ago, when we had our ad hoc safety committee, we talked about fencing. There are not all of the safety needs were, I mean, they were fenced off, but I think there could be a bigger discussion on that.
We can talk about safety protocols, maybe safety infrastructure that we can put in place.
Thank you.
Any other potential topics for the forum? No. I was going to suggest infrastructure in general. Maybe our 5 or 10 most immediate needs that we'll have to take care of whether or not that Measure T passes. So the next board, whether or not it's got bond money, can prioritize what to work on. Anyone else?
Infrastructure was one of the things I was thinking about as well, so.
Okay, so I think we have safety and segue that into a discussion about the high priority infrastructure needs. And some of those may align with each other. Okay, that was a very quick and easy discussion.
How many topics were we talking about?
2, like 45 minutes on each. The whole meeting is usually less than 2 hours with a break. Item 2A, Board of Trustees appointment to the Personnel Commission process. Staff will review trustees process to appoint the board's representatives to the Personnel Commission for a 3-year term. Do we have a discussion on this one? Dr. Spalding, are you on the line?
I am President Baker. So Reem Nazra has been the Personnel Commissioner decided by the Board of Trustees. It's her appointment. She has declared that she would like to serve at the board's request for another 3 years, if so chosen.
Okay. I could see Dr. Shea is accepting Ms. Nazra's.
Second.
We have a motion by Dr. Shea, a second by Ms. Lujan. All those in favor of
President Baker.
Yes.
This is just announcing that she would be your candidate, and then at the next board meeting would be nominating her for an action item.
Gotcha. We are,
You're a step ahead.
gotcha. So I'll refine those motions to be that we will be putting forward Ms. Nazara as our board candidate, and we will vote on her actual appointment at a subsequent meeting. So all in favor of Reem Nazara being our board candidate, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Well, I think that's fine. In that case, there's a general consensus that she be our board candidate. Okay, we are opening a public hearing about an additional proposal regarding to the South San Francisco, from the district to the South San Francisco Classified Teachers Association. It says California here, so Classroom Teachers Association. So is there an introduction? Is that Dr. Spalding? Dr. Spalding?
It is still me, President Baker and Board of Trustees. So we are in negotiations with CTA. We are allowed to do up to 2 articles. We only brought 1 article forth. So we are bringing in our 2nd article forth for bargaining in this session, which is Article 14, evaluations. I'm sorry, Article 13, evaluations, as we're moving forward with a different evaluation system.
Very well, and this is a public hearing, so I'm going to open a public hearing for anyone who wishes to comment on this matter at 8:22 p.m. So any public hearing is open. Does anyone wish to speak on this item? Seeing none, I am closing the public hearing at 8:22 p.m. Okay, we are moving on to our action items. Our first action item is a resolution number 22-56 for Hispanic Latinx Heritage Month. Staff has recommended the adoption of resolution 2256 honoring Hispanic Latinx Heritage Month. And we have it on the screen. Would the clerk like to read it in the record in English?
Yes, delighted to. Resolution 2256, Hispanic Latinx Heritage Month, September 15th through October 15th, 2022. Whereas the month of September 15th to October 15th was designated as Hispanic Heritage Latinx Month by the United States Congress in 1988. And whereas Hispanic, Latinx, or Latino refers to Puerto Rican, South or Central American, or other Spanish culture or origin, regardless of race. And whereas September 15th was chosen to commemorate the anniversary of independence of 5 Latin American countries, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua, and September 16th for Mexico's independence. And whereas this year's theme is Unidos y Inclusivity for a Stronger Nation. And whereas the impact of the Hispanic Latinx culture and centuries-old traditions are manifested in our state's customs and laws. And whereas Hispanic Americans, Latinx continue to make important contributions to our society in American government, business, agriculture, armed forces, commerce, education, the arts, science, and sports. And whereas California Education Code 51204.5 specifically calls for the instruction in the social sciences to include the study of the role and contributions of Mexican Americans to the economic, political, and social development of California and the nation, with particular emphasis on portraying the role of this group in contemporary society. And whereas Hispanic Americans, Latinx, are one of the fastest growing communities in this country and represent 62 million or 19% of US residents, 40% of California's population, which signifies the nation's largest Hispanic Latinx population, 30% of the South San Francisco population, and 44% of the district students. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the South San Francisco Unified School District Board of Trustees hereby recognizes and wishes to honor Hispanics and Latinos during the 2022 Hispanic Latinx Heritage Month, regularly passed and adopted this 8th day of September, 2022.
I'd like to ask our President to read it into Spanish.
Buenas tardes o buenas noches. Resolución 2256. Distrito Mes de la Herencia Hispani Latinx. 15 de septiembre, 15 de octubre de 2022. Considerando que el mes de 15 de septiembre al 15 de octubre fue designado como mes de la hispanidad latinx por el Congreso de los Estados Unidos en 1988 y considerando que hispano o latinx se refiere a puertorriqueño, sur o centroamericano o otra cultura o origen español, independientemente de su raza, y por cuanto 15 de septiembre fue elegido para conmemorar el aniversario de la independencia de 5 países latinoamericanos: Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, y el 16 de septiembre por la independencia de México. Y considerando que el tema de este año es hispano latinx, sé orgulloso de tu pasado, abraza el futuro, y considerando que el impacto de la cultura hispana latinx y tradiciones centenarias se manifiestan en las costumbres y las leyes de nuestro estado, y por cuanto los hispanos latinx siguen haciendo importantes contribuciones a nuestra sociedad en el gobierno estadounidense, los negocios, la agricultura, las Fuerzas Armadas, el comercio, la educación, las artes, la ciencia y los deportes. Y considerando que el Código de Educación de California, sección 51204.5, llama específicamente instruir en las ciencias sociales el estudio de la función y las contribuciones de estadounidenses de origen mexicano para el desarrollo económico, político y social de California y del país, con énfasis en retratar el papel de este grupo en la sociedad contemporánea, y por cuanto los hispanos latinx son una de las comunidades de más rápido crecimiento en este país y representan 61 millones o 19% de los residentes de Estados Unidos, el 40% de la población de California, que significa la mayor población hispana de la nación, el 30% de la población de South San Francisco y el 44% de los estudiantes del distrito. Ahora, por lo tanto, se resuelve que la Junta Directiva del Distrito Escolar Unificado de Sur San Francisco, por lo presentante, reconoce y desea honrar los hispanos y los latinos durante el mes de Hispanidad Latinx 2022, aprobada y adoptada regularmente el día 8 de septiembre de 2022.
Señor Vice Presidenta, may I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
I'll give that to Trustee Lujan and as the motion, and Trustee Murray as the second. Sorry. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Caller, Trustee Shay, Trustee Lujan, Trustee Murray, Trustee Richardson.
Yes. Motion carries 5-0, 6-0. Thank you. It is now 8:30 p.m. and we have to take a break every 90 minutes for our rules. So we will be in recess until 8:40 p.m. Settle down, settle down. All right, good evening. Welcome back. We'll see if we can make it through these next few agenda items quickly. So we are at action item 1B, nominations for CSBA directors at large. The board will consider making nominations for CSBA directors at large for the Asian Pacific Islander or Hispanic as presented to the board. Are there any nominations? All right, well, seeing none, we will make none. And we will move on to the next item then. Also item 1B, which I think should be 1C. Approval of districts' updated board policies. The staff is recommending the approval of the following updated district board policies as presented to the board. I'll actually start this. This is among the group, I believe, that Dr. Shea and I worked on. However, I would like to pull number 4, the 3515.3 regarding the district police security department. We suggested changes that I don't see reflected in the one that are on the screen. For example, it asks for options like, if you have a police department, you select this. If you have a security department, you select that. And there's a whole item about like police and buying military equipment, which does not apply to us. That's still in. So I will resubmit those changes to Nathan and ask them to bring that item back at a future time. Do I have any comments or suggestions for the other 6 items?
I'll agree to that, but what item number is that?
Item number 4, which is the one about district police.
Well, could we bring it back for a second reading once we figure it out?
To be corrected before we can do a first reading on that particular one. So.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah. So I have a motion for items 1 through 3 and 5 through 7. Do I have a second for that one?
And you're going to waive the second reading? So your motion, you want to waive the second reading?
No, he says we have to bring it back for first reading.
Only item 4 do we need to bring back?
Yeah, I am holding item 4 because it does not have the corrections that the bylaws committee or the adjustments that the bylaws committee requested. So I am taking your motion for items 1 through 3 and 5 through 7. And the request is to waive a second reading. So we don't have another set of 7 next time.
Well, I'll be frankly honest. I did not have a chance to read 7. And I wanted to at least have an opportunity to bring him back so I could catch up for a second reading as a way of buying time.
Okay.
Say you.
I will say that if you do that, there's another set behind us, and the next time you'll have to read 14 bylaws.
14?
Because there's another monthly set behind us. So we have a motion, but it does not include the request to waive a second reading at this point.
We want to see if that motion will get a second.
Trustee Murray already seconded it.
I'll second it with the waiving of the second reading.
So you're gonna have individual votes?
You can vote, you can vote
I
no.
will abstain.
Thank you.
On this.
Okay.
5 to 7.
Okay, so, well, then I will break it into 2 parts then. I will do a vote I will accept your motion for items 1 through 3. Then I'll ask for a second motion for items 5 through 7. So All those in favor of approving items 1 through 3, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? 1 through 3 pass. May I have a motion for items 5 through 7, please?
I'll make the motion.
And waive the second reading.
Mo-
Abstention.
Mo-
Item 5 to 7.
Okay, I copy that. Moved by trustee Murray, seconded by trustee Shea. All those in favor of items 5 through 7, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And the record shows that we have 1 abstention from trustee Richardson on items 5 through 7. Educational Services is our next item. Item 2A, approval of an MOU with the Boys and Girls Club at the Peninsula at Sunshine Gardens Elementary School. Staff is recommending the approval of the MOU with the Boys and Girls Club at the Peninsula for an expanded learning program at Sunshine Gardens Elementary School for the 22-23 school year as presented to the board. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Trustee Lujan, second by trustee Shea. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item B, approval of MOU with the Boys and Girls Club of the Peninsula for a South San Francisco High School Future Grads Program. Staff is recommending the approval of an MOU with Boys and Girls Club of the Peninsula for the Future Grads High Quality College Success Program at South San Francisco High School for the 22-23 school year as presented. May I have a motion and a second? Moved by trustee Murray, seconded by trustee Richardson. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. C, approval of the consolidated application and reporting system spring 2021 and 22-23 application for funding. Staff is recommending the approval of the consolidated application and reporting system 21 data collection and 22-23 application for funding as presented to the board.
So moved. Second.
Moved by trustee Lujan, seconded by trustee Shea. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. D, approval of the Renaissance Learning Agreement renewal. Staff is recommending the approval of the renewal of the Renaissance Learning Incorporated Agreement to provide online instructional support in the areas of reading and math for the 22-23 school year as presented to the board. Moved by trustee Shea, seconded by trustee Lujan. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Human Resources Resolution 22-59 for retired certificated teachers to return earlier to serve as certificate substitutes. Staff is recommending the adoption of Resolution 2259 to enable recently retired certificated teachers to return earlier than the 180-day calendar separated from service requirement to serve as substitutes in the district. Sir,
With a waiving of the reading.
so moved by trustee Lujan, seconded by trustee Murray. Before we vote, I just want to make a comment that I know that this is a great program with a one-time waiver from the governor. Usually anyone who retires from a district has to wait 6 months before they can sub again. This, with our sub shortages, will hopefully give us a few more
I
options.
appreciate you clarifying that this is only for this year, correct? One time or?
Mr. Irish?
I'm here also, if you would
Oh,
like.
sorry.
Yes, President Baker. Yeah, this is a one-time for 22-23.
Thank you, Dr. Spalding. Roll call vote, please.
Mueller,
Aye.
Shea, trustee Lujan,
Yes.
trustee Richardson,
Second, where are we?
We're voting. The microphone's not working.
Okay. Yes.
Yes. Excuse our microphone difficulties. Yes, motion carries 650/60. And I know Mr. Yano will be happy. Item 3B, approval of a provisional internship permit number 1. Staff is recommending the approval of provisional internship permit for a certificated employee at Westboro Middle School to allow this individual to be employed on the basis of the provisional internship permit as presented to the board. Moved by trustee Murray, second by trustee Lujan. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Second, similar item, staff is recommending the approval of provisional internship for a certificated employee at Martin Elementary School to allow this individual to be employed on the basis of provisional internship permit as presented to the board. May I have a motion and second?
Second.
So moved by trustee Lujan, seconded by Vice President Richardson. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Business Services 4B, approval of Montessori lease addendum. Staff is recommending the approval of an addendum with Mills Montessori to extend their lease agreement for an additional 7 years as presented to the board. I believe this is the Tell side, correct? Yeah.
I just had a quick question.
Vice President Richardson, go ahead with your question.
Mr. O, on this lease addendum, was that for the increase? I think I read it said it was for an increase, but what I was trying to find out, is this like within the range that we were approved a while back, that we were going to raise everybody about 3%? Is that what it, yes, okay, I remember correctly then. Thank you, that's all I needed.
Thank you.
It's not much.
May I have all those in favor?
They pay for their PG&E, correct? Their utilities?
Yes.
All right, then was that trustee Shea who moved it? Do I have a second? Trustee Lujan is the second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. 4C, approval of denial of claim. Every time I read that, it sounds like a contradiction. Approval of denial. Just denial of a claim. Staff is recommending the denial of a claim and referral to the district's insurance carrier as presented to the board.
Oh, I'll second. There we go. Work.
The mic does work eventually. I will have give the motion to trustee Murray and the second to trustee Lujan. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. 4D, resolution 22-57 for the GAN limit. Staff is recommending approval of resolution 22-57, certifying the annual GAN limit for 2021 and the estimated GAN limit for 22-23. If anyone ever wants to get upset with the state of California, look up what the GAN limit is. May I have a motion and a second?
And waive the reading.
Second.
Trustee Murray, seconded by trustee Lujan. Roll call vote, please.
Student trustee Aller,
Yes.
trustee Murray. Trustee Richardson,
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yes. 4E, approval of paraprofessional services agreement for facilities consulting services. Staff is recommending the approval of the 22-23 professional services agreement in an amount not to exceed $48,000 with K-12 facilities, school facilities consultant William Savage for facilities consulting services as presented to the board. May I have a motion and a second? By trustee Shea, seconded by trustee Murray. All those in favor of returning? Aye. All those, any opposed? Motion carries. 4F, approval of change order 1 to the Tri-Valley excavating agreement for the Alta Loma Middle School drainage repairs. Staff is recommending the approval of change order 1 to the Tri-Valley excavating agreement for a drainage repairs project at Alta Loma as presented to the board. Moved by trustee Lujan, seconded by trustee Shea. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we are through the action items. Whew. Review of future agenda items and meetings. Any, besides the community forum items that we just added, any other requests to be added? Anything to be added? All right, then I see no adds. Summary of board directives.
none.
I see none. Okay, we will start on good and welfare. Comments from the board members and superintendent. This is at the end of the meeting. We just say, something, what we've done or what we like or anything. So I'll start to my immediate left and work out, and then I'll start to my immediate right and work out. So trustee Lujan, you would be first under that.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was like, far left, close left. Sorry. Okay. Well, there we go. I talked enough and the mic started working. So I will keep it brief. I just wanted to thank everyone for all their work for organizing successful back to school nights. Definitely a lot of work went in on the part of all staff, and it was great that so many families attended back to school night.
Go ahead.
Trustee Shea.
President Baker, I was able to participate the back to school night at the South San Francisco High School and also El Camino High School with Dr. Moore, Mr. Irish, and Vice President Richardson. It was a great back to school nights for both high schools. Seeing parents and students, that energy is so positive and exciting. So that was really nice to see with everyone in the theater. So thank you for that opportunity. Thank you.
Trustee Oler, anything on your mind? Very well. No push. Trustee Richardson then.
Couple comments. Well, I went to, with the magic of Zoom, I was able to zoom around about 5 schools. And it was fun. We started at Martin School, and what was really appealing to me was the children have to come to school. It's a whole new generation of learning. They have to come to school with their tablets charged, and their make sure they bring their don't trade your passwords. I mean, this is like, I think first grade. First grade, yes. And so there's a brave new world in education. So I went to Juniper Serra, and Principal Sampayan was gracious and warm and welcoming everybody. And I was just blown away. Over 200 parents showed up for that. It was just like a lot of participation. And then I went over to Monte Verde, and this is a span of an hour. So, you know, it was fast. And there's another big group of parents. And then somehow I went to Ponderosa, and that was great. Then the next day we went to South City High, and I stood in line and got Mr. Frosty. That was delicious. After Mr. Sabra, what? I forgot his name. So Asbra, excuse me, I get the mess up. Anyway, he was very nice and welcoming parents, and everybody went to classes. Then I zoomed over to, no, I didn't zoom. I drove over to El Camino, and Mr. Brioni, he's the new principal, and he was so nice and gracious and welcoming. And there was a big group of parents, and then there was the block schedule that we had to use. And then I ended up buying a cowbell, trying to be going to the next day's El Camino game, which I missed because I went to the youth commission, and because another member of the community had said, I want to go there with you. And I said, okay. So I didn't want to take the limelight off of the President Baker and Superintendent Moore, and city leaders were there. And it was just a nice little group there. Everybody telling their stories. And then they had boba, but I missed the boba. So I can't think of anything else I did. I tried to, so that was my whole week. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Murray.
Did we talk about the ribbon cutting?
Yeah.
So on August 12th, last year, we had voted on renaming the Community Learning Center from the Community Learning Center to the Gene Mullen Learning Center, because Mr. Mullen worked as a teacher in our district, and he passed away last year. He was huge in our district and our city. He was a city council member. He was an assembly member. But more than that, he put his heart and soul into the Community Learning Center. and into elevating the voices of our youth. And so it really was a pleasure to attend that. I learned some things about Mr. Mullen that I hadn't known. And so that was a highlight of the last couple of weeks. And then I appreciate that we're back touring the schools. So I went to Monteverde Elementary School and Westboro Middle School yesterday. And it's so nice to see the kids again. I'm just like, I just love it. And both Westboro and Monteverde are the schools that my children attended. So it was even extra special for me. And thank you for bringing us on these tours. So that's what I did the last couple of weeks.
Dr. Moore, anything? Thank you. I'll speak for a moment. It has been a while since our last meeting, so I'd like to reiterate that the ribbon cutting and dedication of the Learning Center to former South San Francisco High School teacher, and he did some other things after that. Gene Mullen was a very good event. I was one of the speakers. I was able to say that all of us have had that one teacher in their life who made a difference, who inspired them. And for so many in South San Francisco, that teacher was Gene Mullen. So it was very appropriate that a joint city and school facility was named after him. I met with our new Classroom Teachers Association President, Heather Burns, had a good conversation about what's on the minds of our teachers. I spoke, as Trustee Richardson said, at the Youth Town Hall the other night. I basically told the students in attendance, if you want boba, you got to fight for your boba. And if others aren't getting boba, you got to make sure they get their boba. I attended all 4 sessions on the upcoming bond and facilities needs, and whether or not that bond gets passed, we have a lot of facilities needs in our district that, if the bond's not passed, are going to require a healthy chunk of change out of our budget to handle. And finally, I was at the South San Francisco High School season opener 2 weeks ago against Kennedy High of Richmond. The Warriors did not come out on top that one, but there was a really good crowd. There was a lot of enthusiasm that has sometimes been missing over the last couple of years. So I think we might have a very competitive, the Warriors will have a very competitive season, and hopefully we'll have a great ball game on November 5th, or whatever the date is this year. So tonight, as we adjourn, I'd like to remember 3 names that the South San Francisco community recently lost. The first was former teacher Larry Bisson. Larry Beeson, thank you. Larry taught English and reading at South San Francisco High School, El Camino High School, and Baden High School. By the end of the career, he was a BITSA, new teacher advisor, training up our new teachers. He was a champion of serving the needs of at-risk students. And his funeral mass will be tomorrow at St. Gregory's Catholic Church in San Mateo. We also lost 2 longtime teachers from Westboro Middle School over the last few weeks. Jerry Lewis died in late August. He taught social studies in the 7th grade and was a 7th grade Honor Society advisor. And Mr. Steve Carson, who also taught social studies, passed away over the weekend as well. I'd like to have a slightly longer moment of silence than usual tonight as we go, because we are honoring 3 individuals. So please join me in remembering our past teachers. Thank you for your remembrance. And with that, we are